Hey, y'all.
It's me.
Hey, so I'm coming to you today with a serious matter. And yes, I got my coffee. I don't even know what time it is, but I got my coffee. So here's the serious matter, and I guess I will entitle this Church Folks Show Up Again. So, back a couple of months ago, I put up a video about church folks. And I was really disturbed because I wasn't listened to about how I could help the church do a TikTok that would bring more people to their 100th year anniversary celebration. However, I wasn't listened to. But on social media, multiple platforms, I am invited to come to creator classes. And so I'm just really excited about that. But when I learned something, I want to share and teach others. That's just who I am. Okay. So I want to talk about what has happened since that video went viral on one of my other pages. So Doc and I were on a enjoyable time of 2 years of him not being in music ministry. And we were traveling and seeing the world, and I was delighted. However, Doc has great skills, okay? And then let me say that not only does he have great skills, Doc is a smart, kind, considerate man. He treats people with respect and dignity. He doesn't devalue anyone. We both try and lift up and not tear down. So we were doing grand, and we got a call from this pastor that said his minister of music was leaving to take care of his mom. And he and the pastor talked for a long time. Doc even got up and left the room. I didn't know who he was talking to. And so he came back and he said, "Babe, I want to discuss something with you." He said, "I just got off the phone with this pastor," and he explained who the pastor was. And he has asked me to come and run his music department. I immediately said, "No." Okay. I had been there, done that, and I had had some serious church hurt over music ministry, where people in the music ministry were sometimes rude and nasty to me as the minister of music's wife. So I wasn't down for that. I didn't want to go. But, a couple of days rolled by and the Lord spoke to me and said, "Look, Doc has to stand for himself. And if I'm calling him to help a ministry, you as his helpmate, needs to support it and be with him." So I went to Doc and I told him what the Lord had spoke to my heart. And I said, "Babe, you can't stand for me and I can't stand for you. However, if the Lord is calling you to be the minister of music, I pray that you do what the Lord says to do, because you want to live within his will." Well, at least we do. So he took the position and went to the church, small church, and I had heard some rumors about the pastor, and I don't listen to rumors. I let people show me who they are before I prejudge anyone, because you never know what the situation is on how someone may have done or their behavior towards you. So we went to the church. Doc was hired, and then the pastor looked at his dossier, his resume, which is huge. The brother holds 8 degrees as well as a doctorate degree, all accredited, not from any fake startup school. We're talking about universities that are accredited through the Department of Education. Okay, so now that's out of the way. So I did this video. Pastor was upset about it. And after that, actually wanted everyone to sign a non-disclosure agreement, meaning that if there was something said that you may disagree with, but if you sign that non-disclosure document, which I have not signed, then that means that you can't discuss anything that happens in a specific church meeting, staff meeting, however. But a church is a nonprofit, and a church should be transparent. How do you know this? How do I know this? I'm asking myself, because my dad was a pastor before he went to glory, and he ran his church the way the Lord called him to. He was not running his church as though he were the king, as though he was, to be doted upon by the parishioners or his ring kissed. So that was my dad, true pastor of God, right? Anyhow, we went to this church, and I went to pray over my husband because I've dealt with church hurt, which is really real, okay? I dealt with it, and I didn't want to deal with it here. However, here we go, y'all. So in 2020, Doc agreed to go to this church. And of course, I'm going to go support my husband. I did not sing in the choir like I normally do. I did not participate like I normally do because I was guarding my heart. So Doc did such a great work. Let my work speak for me. Although when he came, there was what I would call the Mean Girls Club. And they were a group of girls, a group of ladies who basically controlled what happens with the music ministry, okay? And they weren't happy about the change. And the directress, actually, me and her, I asked Pastor if he would meet with me and her because there were some things that were just mean. The way you speak to people, and I could not get over how she spoke harshly to the seniors. So when that happened, I stood up because I heard my grandmother say, "You do not disrespect your elders. You may not agree with them. You may even think, why are they, doing whatever it is they do? That part doesn't matter. If you understand what some of our older seniors have gone through in their lives, when they say things, I listen, I respect it. I may not agree with it, while other times they're right on point." Now, I want to tell you, stick with me because this is going to be a long video, and I pray that you will listen till the end. So Doc went to this church 2020. He did a fabulous job. Let my works that I've done speak for me. So, when we got there, COVID happened and the church was shut down, remember? So they would do their videos at the church, everybody separate, right? So that, we wouldn't get COVID. So they did the separate with the videos and brought them together to do YouTube on Sundays, which was a beautiful thing. Now we move into where, we could have just a little bit of people back. It was going to be, I think, 50 or so. And Doc said in one of the meetings, why don't we build a stage and have people come outdoors? Because if you're outdoors in the air and you have your mask on, and you're sitting away from each other, then you would be safe. So they built the stage and we had church outdoors, which was just a fabulous time, right? Meanwhile, there were still some rifts, okay, with someone who just could not get over that Doc had been placed as the minister of music. So there were some musicians who decided, hey, I'm out of here, because they don't like change. Anyway, Doc had a position available, and there was this sweet young woman that we knew who actually knew another musician that we hadn't seen in, I gotta say, decades. His name is John Nickens, right? So John Nickens called up Doc, and Doc at the time needed a musician, and we knew John. Now, we were not in John's personal space. We knew him as a musician at church. And when Doc was at, oh gosh, I got to think of the name of the church. It's in West Covina, St. Stephen's. So Doc met him there. Anyway, he called up Doc. And at this particular time, he was in need of a music position. And Doc said, oh my God, it's like, okay. So, he went through the proper channels to hire him, to get the permission to hire him as his assistant. And Doc was so happy. He said, he even talked about, hey, after a while, let's get you, see if you can be placed on salary. And so he did that for John. Not only did he do that for John, John needed a letter of recommendation to get a position from an employer. And doctor, if you're an accredited real doctor, holds a lot of weight. Okay, and so Doc wrote him a letter for the job. Then he came back and needed a letter for to get a place to stay. And so Doc wrote him a glowing letter, and even the young woman called him. And I was sitting right next to him when the young woman called to get a reference for John to stay, and Doc gave a glowing reference. Now put that in the back of your mind, because I want you to remember that. So, we go on. Doc's building the ministry as best you can in COVID, right? And then continues to build the ministry. And some other little rifts happen, and you just try and move on. Well, one particular one that's really in my mind was Doc was teaching some music, and I hope this is right. If not, he'll correct me below. And Ronald, the drummer, Doc said, look, man, or to the effect, with a stern voice, you have to know your music. Okay. So they were practicing, I want to say it was for an Easter a resurrection service. And what he said to Ronald, the drummer, about knowing your music, got back to Pastor. Now, there were multiple people from the music department and the arts department present, okay? And if you've ever been in a choir before, you have had some ministers of music that say, hey, wait a minute now. Come on, we got to get this, okay? They're not doing it out of meanness to you. They're doing it out of, we have to be prepared to be ready to minister, right? So, after that happened, Pastor gathered up everybody, okay, a couple of weeks later, and made Doc apologize to Ronald. However, it took my mind back to the directress, who was harsh to the seniors, and I was and she did it in front of the choir, and I took it to Pastor to say, this is out of order. However, he did not make her come back and apologize to all of us who were sitting in there when she did this to the seniors. Now, let's move forward. So after I did that video, I did not sign a disclosure letter because I think that it's totally unfair to call anyone from the church to sign a disclosure letter. So this is what happened. Remember, Doc hired John. Well, John is conniving with the leadership pastors in charge, and he then becomes the minister of music. But check this out. He says that Dr. Cook can no longer play at the church. Now you tell me that a pastor would let a musician of Doc's caliber not play because the musician that Doc brought to him is now going to be over with the woman who is rudely rude and has run people away from the choir, okay, from the praise team, has been brought before Pastor and other people who has complained about how mean and nasty she is to others. And Pastor is like, nothing. Well, what I found out later is that they're great friends. So she can do what she'd like to do with no repercussions. So Doc was told that he is no longer the minister of music because the church is too top heavy, although they hired 2 pastors before they let Doc go. Yes, they fired him. So they hired those 2 pastors, and then, a couple of months later, I wouldn't even say a year later, they told Doc just, I want to say a couple of weeks ago, that he is terminated. Now, let me tell you how they did it. They sent a FedEx letter, y'all, to the house to terminate his employment. First, what they did is they took him down to 10 hours a week, and Doc loves the Lord, so he's going to work, right? And guess how much they wanted to pay him? $29 an hour for 10 hours a week of administration work that John doesn't know how to do yet. However, I was so upset about it that I wanted a meeting because now I have an ought against the pastor. And the Lord says, if you have an ought against your brother, you go to them in love and you talk to them and you get an understanding. And if behavior's changed, you have gained a friend in the Lord, right? And you see eye to eye, you come together, you pray, and whatever that behavior is, you change it for the betterment of the church, because our mission here is to save souls. Anyhow, we went to this meeting, right? And when we got to the meeting, the new pastor who is now over the services at the church, and another pastor who had been there for a very long time with the senior pastor. And I'll give you these names, okay? Just not right now. So we went to this meeting, and do you know that they tried to put all of the disparities back on Doc? And I wouldn't let it happen. No, you are not going to blame him for other people's actions. You are going to be accountable for what you have done to him, which is outside of the word. And you know, the Lord says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And in the next sentence, he says, and I will pay. He also says, touch not my anointed and do my prophet no harm. And if y'all don't know nothing else about Dr. Robert Cook, is that he is an anointed man of God. But I want you to know the truth. People are calling us, texting us. We even had someone come by our home to find out how we are doing. And they're saying, you know, we so apologize. We know his reputation. And if you don't do it his way, it's the highway. Well, that is not how the church runs. You are supposed to be able to do your job effectively and not be caught up in a pastor who wants to be the king of the church. He is there to deliver the word as the spiritual head of the church. And if you are the spiritual head and you are godly, you don't get involved with belittling or de-appreciating, I don't even know if that's a word, devaluing a man of God like Doc. It hurt us to our core. But I have noticed in my days of worshiping that some pastors are just CEOs. They are not men of God because they show constantly that they don't take in account the Lord's word. And they want to run their church as a business. Well, let me say this. The church is an organism. The head of the church is Jesus. But what I'm finding out is that we have sprouted up what I call church clubs. And my church club is better than your church club. And I can outdo your church club with my church club. And I'm the biggest church club. And I have the most parishioners. That's not what it's about. Doing the Lord's work is outside of the walls of the church. We come to the church to get filled with the word in order to share it and bring people to give their lives to the Lord. not to get caught up in wrongdoing against other saints. So Pastor Kennedy at Mount Zion Baptist Church of Ontario, shame on you that you would treat a man of God the way that you have and devalue him and humiliate him and make him feel like he's nothing. But let me let you know something from my heart. I still pray for you. I pray that the Lord will fix your heart. Multiple people you have done this to because they have come to me and say, don't worry, it's okay, it happened to me. Stop it, Pastor Kennedy. Stop it. Stop treating people as though they're nothing, like you devalue them and their gifts. We can't do that to each other. We have to lift each other up. And for you as the senior pastor to let this go down and in the meeting say to me that you have to reduce everybody's hours. And I understand that you have to reduce hours because you say the church is too top heavy, although you hired 2 pastors before Doc, and you also spent 100,000 plus on the 100-year celebration at the convention center, which could have been given at the church, and you would have gained $100,000 plus because we would have given to the church for you to be able to uplift different ministries. Now, this is what really got me to do the video. I received his blog, and on his blog, he said that monthly they are going to be giving $1,500 to a certain entity, and that they are going to be giving other funds, and he named the dollar amount to other entities. But you fired Doc because you're top heavy. That makes no sense. That you would fire, and what's really where I know you meant to get to him is that you sent it via FedEx, and we received it the day before Thanksgiving. That is not of God. You are out of order. And if you and all your other, what I call the henchmen, don't bring yourselves into order, I promise you, everything you touch will crumble until you apologize to Doc publicly and make it known that you were wrong. You don't do the saints of God like that, because if you do, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and I will pay. So I hope that for those of you who are experiencing church hurt at Mount Zion, I apologize and I pray for your heart, and I pray the Lord covers you and that He removes that hurt from your heart as well as my heart. Y'all pray for me because I'm trying to get over this thing. It's tough when you love Jesus and you want to work for Him. And then those who you're supposed to trust and love treat you like poo-poo. All right, y'all. I'm gone because I'm about to be emotional. Have a great day. Pastor Kennedy, shame on you. Pastor Young, shame on you. I can't recall the name. Riley, Pastor Riley, shame on you. But I have nothing but love for God's people and you.